Awesome. And we both got it posted. So, all right. Welcome, everybody. Probably wait a few minutes just before to let people trickle in. So, if you're watching the replay, definitely skip ahead a minute or two. But so I think I ask this every week, but how did sourcing go this week? How's the business looking? Anything change in since we last chatted?
No, I don't think so. Consistent. I mean, that's just, I find just like, I know we've talked about this, going to say it time and time again, consistently chunking out a couple hours a day to source, but also making a conscious effort to like check on my spend more than I have in the past. I've kind of just relied on, I'm going to spend it, usually get there type of thing. So like just making a conscious effort. The same way you get on the scale every day, if you're trying to lose weight, it's a good idea. You can't, what's the saying? You can't something if it doesn't get measured.
Goals aren't I know what you mean. But
if you don't measure it, you can't like adjust it,
Yep. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for joining. Yeah, I mean, I think consistency is what I'm after. I'm really not trying to change my routine week by week. It's, the more consistent you can be, whether it's you're sourcing at this time every single day, like you said, or, getting out a shipment this time of the week, or you're repricing, however many days a week. If you can get consistent with it, it's going to be more beneficial long term, and you'll start to see that growth, pretty quickly. So
yeah, 100%. Just in general, as I get older, like time passes no matter what. If you can figure out ways, in my opinion, to have consistency, even if that's less in the short longevity wise, it's so, you come into a new year, it's like, oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds this year or whatever it is. It's like, I'm going to run no less than 5 miles a day. And it's like, you'd be better off just like walking a mile every day, and rather than go hard for a week and then just,
fall off.
Exactly. So I kind of, I've experienced enough of that in my life to just try to create things that I can do for a long period of time.
Yep. That's the key. Yeah. All right. Well, Stephanie asked, just want to share. I finally moved from watching videos to taking action. First box sent in this week. That's awesome.
That's great.
Great starting point.
Yeah. Onwards from here. Onwards and upwards.
Definitely. Yeah. Then the next step is sending in the second box and then, having enough stuff to send in a second box and a third box, and, trying to send those in as consistently as you can.
But the first one's the hardest, in my opinion. Action is by far the hardest thing to do. So good for you.
But you'll learn the most from that first one as well. So, yeah. All right, we're a couple minutes in, so I think it's a good time to jump into the main topic this week. And, you've probably seen a lot of it on social media. Everyone's posting about it. But Amazon dropped a new fee structure for us in the last week. And basically they're adding a placement fee based on how many warehouses we're allowing our inventory to ship to when we're sending FBA. So based on the number of, I guess, warehouses you are allowing them to ship to, and you can modify the settings, right? They're adding a certain amount of fees based on the size of the product, and then the location as well. So there is an option where there's no fees, but it's going to be sending to 4+ warehouses, which if you're not sending a ton of units of each item, that can really add up, and they might actually get you for like 7 to 10 different, shipments created, like an inventory lab. I had this last week. So I like I've mentioned on here before, I try to get a shipment myself out a week, but it's normally like cheaper items that, I'm saving way more money prepping it myself instead of sending it to my prep center. So for me, like the ROI doing it myself is more worth than sending it to the prep center. And a couple of the items aren't even profitable if it went to prep center. Like I need it to pay sales tax and not the prep fee to actually make it profitable. And some of the items sell fast enough where it's worth it. So, I get enough items for maybe 70 to 100 units a week getting out from my house. And last week's shipment it wasn't the fees weren't intact yet, but at the displacement of where the shipments went, they had 9 different warehouses that I had to send product to, and 2 of the 9 had 1 item each in it, and it wasn't even a large item. It was just like a lotion. I had 8 units, 1 in one box, 1 in another box, and 6 in the last box. So I think it's going to take some playing around with the settings to understand how many shipments, because if you think about it, like even though Amazon gets really cheap shipping with UPS, there's a good chance that even if they do have, let's say it's 6 shipments and you have 200 units, even if there's like 10 units in one shipment, it's going to cost you at least $6-7. So if 10 units, that's 70 cents per unit you have to account for. Are the fees going to be that high? Probably not, to be honest. They're not going to. I know some fees, like for maybe like the oversized products might be a little bit higher. That's what I've heard. I haven't quite read up on the whole fee structure, but basically, you might save if the fee placement on those 10 items is going to be 20 cents each, and you have 10 items. Now it's $2 instead of $7. So over time, that's going to add up. So I guess we just wanted to share our thoughts on that and how our businesses are either going to change or pivot or stay the same based on what Amazon's doing.
Yeah, no, I think that's even pre this week, they're getting shipments split up is nothing new. I'm not saying to this degree. I know the fee structure is increased, but I would still previously also weigh, okay, if I have a small shipment or 20 shipment, 30 unit shipment, and they want to split it up into 3 or 4 boxes, I'll just pay the fee rather than pay for 4 separate shipping things. You know what I mean? Especially if it's like a light compact box. So I think that's something that a lot of people probably don't necessarily weigh, which I think now will kind of force your hand to make sense. But, I think it's just a perspective thing. I think there's still plenty of opportunity here. And I don't think by any means this is a make or break type of thing,
Do you think that so I know we talked about even last week, like, set up multiple shipments. You can always go back and change the settings real time, and it will update an inventory lab before you can decline the shipment, go back. But let's say our prep center is, we have the settings and they're not going to check with us every time. Hey, should we try the multiple placements to see if it makes it cheaper for you? Or they're just going to keep going with whatever settings you have set up. I guess, is it over time? That's the thing. Maybe we need some actual like real data from our own, selling products, shipping products. Cause certain weeks we're buying a bunch of light items, right? Maybe it's a small, 60 capsules of vitamins, and we, bought a bunch of those, and, that stuff's pretty light, small. It can pack into one box. And the next week we're buying a bunch of bulkier items that are, require more boxes, but then Amazon splits those up in different places. So
yeah,
it's definitely going to take some of our own data to understand what's going to be cheaper in the long run. Either way, we're going to be incurring more fees than we were, but we'll get into some of those details.
I think for me, at least with the prep center, just because we were just talking about that, all of my shipments are substantial size. I'm not saying ginormous or anything. So they're probably always getting broken up to some capacity one way or another. You know what I mean? And frankly, if it's not me doing the physical packing, some of the times I would do it just for the ease of one condensed box, right? But like a prep center, that's not a concern. You know what I mean? So, So yeah, as far as, and whenever I know, like my prep center does it every Thursday, let's say, I have the setting in place that it goes to as many places as possible. And something else that was crossing my mind, Amazon is also going to adjust from this. I don't think it's probably in their best interest to have one units going from sellers to one warehouse. I think they'll probably, they have to figure it out too, just because they're Amazon. Yeah. And they will for sure. At least I'm very confident of that.
Yeah. Amazon's definitely smart enough where they're going to make decisions that work best for them. Like obviously in theory, they want to send it to a couple units to the West Coast, a couple units to the East Coast, a couple units in the Midwest, and that's going to cover their bases. But they're probably going to find that even for like their worker efficiency, sending a box that could be this big, but there's one lotion in there, one unit that's not,
Right.
optimizing their employees, because they're just going to have way more boxes stacked up with little units in it. Got to sort one product, and then every other thing in every other box is a completely different unit. It's going to, I think, it'll definitely cause some buildup in the supply chain or some bottlenecks on their end too. So yeah, they're just probably in general, they're, the shipments of how things are being placed might be sporadic now, but it'll probably algorithmically improve probably over the next month or two once they really figure it out. And hopefully that means it's not going to affect us as much. And maybe some of the sellers that are selling, they're only doing a bunch of test buys of 3 units, 5 units, and they're finding, man, I did multiple shipments and it's sending me 8 boxes and there's only, 4 units in each box, and I'm paying $6 shipping in each box. So now there's, I'm paying $50 shipping plus still a placement fee because I didn't do completely, I did partial shipments, whatever it is. So yeah, some might feel it hard more than others, but like we said, Amazon will probably adapt slightly. And I'm curious on the feedback from sellers too. Like I would assume they have to take that into account at least somewhat. Like they're going to still do what they want, but what do you think is Amazon's take on, if it is really hurting their seller, or will they notice an influx of sellers, dropping off the platform or moving to Walmart? I'm sure they can figure out that data, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on what they are going to do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, but I know a couple of things I could say is that the barrier to entry, keep in mind, to become an Amazon seller is essentially nothing, right? And so on one end, it's not about, in my opinion, losing the quantity of sellers. It's the quality of sellers. Like, I'm sure there's a very, very small percentage of sellers that make up a very, very large percent of Amazon sales, right? From third-party sellers. So the sellers that are, more experienced, having success, do they like this? I wouldn't say so, but like I could see where Amazon is just like, well, if this weeds out some of the very small sellers, so be it. They don't need anybody, any large seller of any capacity. I'm not saying they want to lose a good seller, because they make money hand over fist with it too, incurring no additional risk than they're already are carrying with overhead and stuff and staff and all the fulfillment stuff. But
definitely,
yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're concerned about losing sellers. They just ultimately want the bottom line to grow. They're hyper. The customer's always first, always has been for Amazon, and you don't become Amazon like just like doing stupid stuff time and time again. So I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but like they know their numbers, we don't, and they have to make adjustments where they see fit. And if it deters the smaller sellers, I could see where, keep in mind, there's a lot of headache that Amazon has to deal with too, fraudulent stuff and incorrect stuff. So like, they're not, I could see where it's not a huge deal to them, but also like as the world has got more expensive in every single aspect, right? And something that one of the reasons, and we'll talk about that, I'm not overly concerned, is that I think ultimately what will happen is that all of this will trickle down to what the consumer pays. It's just kind of pretty par for the course. Cost of goods go up, your platform fees go up, cost goes up. You know what I mean? So I think with time it'll get there too.
Yep. Which sucks, but I mean that's just kind of, and there's no way to really like regulate that. And like we said, like kind of how we talked about last week with AI, like how it's just so hard to like have some sort of like pricing tool to find you the cheapest, because there's so many different players in the game. Like it's just too hard to like price to the bot. Like this doesn't happen in any market of where multiple products of the same product are being sold in different platforms. You just aren't going to have a race to the bottom, because that's just not the way the model works. So yeah. Similarly, do you think does Walmart look more enticing to some of those newer sellers?
Um, it's funny. I've definitely heard a lot more about Walmart and diversification, and I understand the thought behind that. But here's kind of my thought, right? It's that I love that Walmart's around because I hope Walmart gets good, because that means there's actually competition potentially for Amazon. And therefore, competition creates a better marketplace for us as sellers. But for me personally, um, I think to take the attention off of something that's working well for me and then to divert it elsewhere, uh, I'm not saying a lot of people I think have success with it, but like I think there's plenty of opportunity left on Amazon. I mean, I think Walmart's great for like anything you can't sell, maybe for restrictions. The way that I view eBay and Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that, I think Walmart's by far the best of those for that stuff. And I think there's going to be a lot of sellers that are first to market in Walmart and have success. And like, that's going to be a huge opportunity. The same way that like there's people that were first to TikTok and first to Instagram. Like there's something about being first that provides a lot of value or advantage.
Yep.
So I'm sure there's going to be people that crush it on Walmart. But for me in my head, I see Amazon as like, and we've talked about this. I don't know how long it goes, but if I get to a point where Amazon doesn't make sense because of fees, let's say, then I think it's time to just pack it in. I don't think Walmart's my saving grace. Now, I don't think I don't think anything's wrong with Walmart, but I don't think it's like I need to go there because Amazon has increased their fees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not pushing me one way or another.
Like you said, it's not a make or break decision by Amazon that's going to, kill off like half of their third party seller population. That's just not, and they know better than that too. I mean, they're like we said, Amazon's not dumb. They're not going to do something that's detriment to half of their suppliers. They're going to do things that are incremental that, might hit a little bit on their bottom lines, but overall it's it's the name of the game, and we can adjust. That's the best part is it's not anything we can't, it's still in our control. Like if we're going to pay more in fees, then we need to increase our buying criteria, right? We need to find items that are higher ROI. If you're worried about paying an extra 30 cents per item, add that to your profit calculator, right? Like just factor in an assumed 30 cents. And now if you're sitting at 35% ROI with the fee already built in, then you're not shocked when you have this big fee, placement fee bill, or Amazon's pulling the money out and you're like, man, I thought I was making more profit on this. Well, you can account for those things. I mean, that's definitely something I'm going to do. I'm sure you'll do the same. It's just, we just have to adjust, and as sucky as it is, you can either be bummed about it or do something about it. So
I agree. I mean, I think we've kind of gotten spoiled, especially the people that have been doing this for 5-10 years now. Like this is such a unique opportunity selling on Amazon, right? It is like such a unique opportunity. And I don't think I got in early. I've been doing this for almost 4 years. I don't think it's nearly as easy during my time as it was. And I shouldn't say easy, but like there's way more competition now. It's way more known, right?
It's definitely mainstream compared to what it was even in, right at the pandemic. I mean, it's
totally. But like, how many people, myself included, if I really source 3 hours a day and make good money doing that, like, can I really complain if I have to do 4 hours a day? I don't know. And that's up to everybody. And if it's not worth it for somebody, I get that. But I was thinking about this when I was driving. The best way I can put this, and it's easy for me to say because I'm at this point in the journey, I will continue to become a better and better sourcer at a much faster rate than Amazon's incremental fees. So for me, it will always make sense until it doesn't. But it might be you might have to be a little bit better. And by the way, I hope some Amazon sellers lose some of their focus to Amazon and put it to Walmart. Like that gives me an advantage too. Anyone that's solely focused on one thing is going to have an advantage over someone that's focused on two things, in my opinion. So.
Yep. it's more like the sellers are being, they're the ones seeing this, but Amazon's customers, they're not going to notice anything. I mean, they're not going to see any of this. They probably don't even know what's going on. Like, oh, the seller fees are increasing, right? Like they just,
Right.
they're just still buying from Amazon. Amazon's still growing. And like we said, I think you put it perfectly, how the rate at how well you are sourcing and you're improving on your sourcing skills is faster than, any, fees Amazon is taking out. I mean, they've added fees, over the last 3 years, definitely. Like each year they've added something here, something there, but we're still selling, we're still making money. So that's kind of, how you have to look at it is, yeah, maybe you're every $1,000 you sell, you're making an extra $50 to $100 less, but is that enough to like completely abandon this business model? Definitely not. I mean,
that was something else. Sorry, that was something else I was going to say though. I mean, unless you're going to quit Amazon because of it, there's really no point of putting. Now, I'm not saying not to strategically have the right settings and stuff, but like mentally, I've never succumbed to. There's no point in whining or complaining as long as you're going to sell, because as long as you're going to sell, it doesn't you can't do anything about it. And and if it doesn't work for you anymore, then that's fine too. But like just in general, like complaining for the sake of it's not going to do anything, unfortunately.
So. Yep. Let's take a look at some questions. We got some good ones here. Stephanie asked, do you believe the new fees will affect prep center logistics and or prices? Well, for luckily for us, the prep center doesn't take on any of the shipping fees, boxes. I mean, I'm getting a breakdown on my invoice every week from my prep center of, their fee per item. Did they have to buy boxes to send my shipment in? And then since they're using my inventory lab, it's just billing me through my Seller Central of all the fees. So they're not, the only thing that they take from me is my prep fee per item. So prep centers shouldn't touch prep centers at all, which is nice, unless you think differently.
No, I don't think it'll affect it at all. The only thing I even think changing for them would be that they might have to pack more boxes.
Basically.
But they charge us even for the physical boxes in a lot of instances, so like, ultimately, I don't think it makes a difference to them. So I can't really see that changing much whatsoever.
Yep, exactly. So Scott said, apologize, this has been asked already, just got on stream. How are you guys preparing for the inbound shipping changes? Yeah, we briefed over in the beginning, but we didn't have as many viewers. So I can kind of go over just the overview again real quick. Basically, Amazon's got this new placement fee based on how many warehouses you plan on shipping to. So they allow you to change your settings to determine how many warehouses you want to ship to. You can have just minimal shipments where it's 1 to 2 shipments max when you create a shipment, and that's going to put the bulk of your inventory in all of one, or 1 or 2 shipments. That's where the fees are going to be the highest. I think standard items are upwards of like 30 cents per item. Large XL oversized products are even more. Those are like dollars worth of fees. Then they have like a minimal shipment, or not. They have like a partial shipments where it's, I think, 3 shipments or less. And then they have, optimized shipments where it's 4 or more, and they can do as many as they want. And I think it's going to take some time playing around with the settings, depending on what items you're shipping out, to understand which is actually the cheaper model. But based on, I think, Scott, you asked that a few minutes ago, and we've kind of brushed over our stance on it, how we're not really letting it affect us. So basically, yeah, the fees are going to be here no matter what. I think for me personally, I'll probably start with the partial shipments where I'm not going to do 4+ because I've seen that, and it's sending like 1 item to 1 warehouse, and then it's sending another item to another warehouse. So I'm packing a box, with 1 item in it, and then the box to ship to Amazon is $6 from UPS, the label. So it's like, okay, I have to add $6 fee to 1 item. That's just clearly the lesser option. So although there's no fee involved, right? Amazon says, oh, there's no fees if you do 4+ shipments. You still might be actually spending more on more shipping boxes, because depending on the weight of them, you could pay upwards of, the cheapest shipping option, right, is if you have like 2 50-pound boxes or 40-pound boxes, or 3 40-pound boxes, and Amazon's only charging like 12, $13 from UPS to ship those. But your placement fees might be maxed out at that point, compared to having no placement fee, but all those same items that, 80 pounds of inventory are dispersed between 8 shipments, and 8 times maybe $7 on average. Now, you're spending $40 on shipping labels compared to $80, whatever the number is. So it's going to take some getting used to. We talked about Amazon, potentially optimizing their shipments too over time, understanding that it really doesn't make a ton of sense to ship one item to a warehouse and one of the same item to a different warehouse. Like they'll figure that stuff out too, hopefully over time. So, we're optimistic that this isn't really going to affect our business all that much.
Yeah. And the only other thing to add to that quickly, Scott, just to reiterate something that we were talking about, was when you create a shipment, I would, at least for me, I will always be doing the cheapest one to start, the multiple shipments, because until you move forward, you don't actually know how many they're going to split it up. And you can always, like, I create shipments in Inventory Lab. So let's say I have it where they can split me up as much as they want, the cheapest, right? But they only end up splitting me up to 3 boxes. Well, rather than automatically, or 4 box, whatever, like you can wait to see where they split you and then go back if you have to and readjust type of thing. But that's the only thing. Other than that, there's not a whole lot we can do or plan on doing based on what we were talking about.
Exactly. Kiki, congrats, Steph. Yeah, that's getting your first box out. That's awesome. Scott, I agree. I've been selling on Amazon off and on since 2015. Shipments were always split up back in the day. Yeah, this is nothing new, the split shipments. They're just adding a little fee on there and kind of making you choose between, optimizing for them to still be, I think it's, the whole reason they're doing this is because they want inventory spread out so they can guarantee the 2-day, 1-day shipping, as often as possible, right? They just want to make sure the customer is happy, and the customer service has been their focus since basically day one. And this is just kind of reiterating, how much they really want the shipping times to be as low as possible for the customer. So,
and also, keep in mind, before this, if you ship everything to one warehouse, well, they now have to unload it and then put it in a truck again and ship it somewhere else, right? Which costs them time and money. So it's not a crazy concept when you think about it that way. Like it, they're kind of just trying to get it to the final destination quicker. And they probably know, okay, in California, this product is bought X amount of times. On the East Coast, not as much. So we need to get more of these over there. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yep. And what Scott's saying here, yeah, it's like they're splitting the shipments. It's kind of like bypassing the FC transfer phase. It's just going right to the warehouse that FC transfer would have put it anyway. So it could speed up actually, live, like your product's going live.
Yep.
You're just paying a little bit more for it, but it's a default pay. You have to pay, but it, hopefully over time, it actually does speed it up instead of, sending it all to one warehouse and then they got to spend a whole week for someone else to receive it in when it's already, I think the efficiency on that side will definitely increase. Adam asks, I am using the no fee option. I'd rather UPS get my money than Amazon. I'm sure Amazon's getting a chunk from UPS, even when we use, their labels. If it's a partnered UPS label, Amazon's probably getting some sort of cut there or something. But either way, yeah, not too shabby. Scott, I do my shipments in IL as well. Thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, you can, like Jonathan said, you can go create the shipment. If it gives you 13, warehouses you're going to send to, decline the shipment. It'll just bring you back to your main page where you're adding products. Go back to Seller Central, change to less partial shipments, and then you go back to Inventory Lab. It'll auto update right away. And then once you recreate the shipment, it'll, shrink the amount of warehouses it's going to get sent to.
Right.
And I mean, if you're shipping all your products yourself, like we mentioned at the beginning, again, there weren't as many people. If the prep center is doing this, you don't have time to communicate they don't have time to communicate with you and say, hey, let's look at how expensive it is when when we have multiple shipments. And then if it's too expensive, give me time to change it and then go back and then try again and see what the price is. Like communication there, they just don't logistically have the means to do that. But if you're doing shipments yourself, you'd be dumb not to, because you could maybe save anywhere from $10 to $50 on fees or even UPS labels, depending on which option is cheaper. So, yeah, you got to look for ways at this point in this scenario. You got to look for ways to save money, and doing that extra step because Amazon allows you to do it is pretty essential. Good questions. Good questions. Yeah, if you guys got more questions about this or just anything else Amazon related, we're going to go probably another 7 to 10 minutes, and so drop your questions down. Otherwise, any other topic we wanted to bring up on this? I feel like we had one more thing maybe to.
Yeah.
Well, you got the memo now, Seth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of touched on like Walmart, like we said, what's working for us. Here's the thing here. Maybe we can go a little bit deeper onto the, like, you maybe seen some people on Instagram post on their stories, like, oh, I'm, going deeper on Walmart, this and that. Like it's something to do, right? And especially if you're on Walmart, like maybe going a little bit heavier, Walmart isn't going to, change the learning curve for you. But for us, like we're so, knowledgeable about our current processes selling on Amazon. The fees are pretty much negligible to the amount of knowledge we have and how we know to pivot. Like if we just need to increase our buying criteria, and add the fee into our profit calculator, like we'll do that. We just know, like, okay, we just have to be a little bit smarter about buying, but we're not going to go and try to learn a whole new system, a whole new, website to try to combat these fees, because the amount of time lost and efficiency lost trying to learn a new system is only going to hurt the Amazon business, when we could have just been pouring all of our already knowledge into the business that we know and just continue to grow from there. Because I like we said, the fees aren't really, they suck, but like what other choice do we have? We're just going to keep buying good inventory and, shrugging off the fees. You're going to get them, but really, if we're going to make, like I said, you send $1,000 profit shipment in and there's $80 in fees. Is that really like hurting the bottom line all that much? It's, it's like what would that be? That's 8%. Yeah, it sucks, but you're still making $920 profit on that shipment instead of $1,000. So in the grand scheme of things, not, super hurtful, but it sucks. But what are you going to do?
You said something too that I completely agree with. I mean, there's a learning curve if you go to Walmart, right? And so that's going to take attention from Amazon to Walmart. So it's one of those things, best case, it's one step back for two steps forward, right? But in the short term, you're absolutely it would be hard to realistically think you're not going to see some type of dip for a couple months or whatever the learning curve is. And at that, and for me personally, and everyone's different, the day that Amazon doesn't make sense, I'll probably just be done reselling online, because I can't, if it doesn't make sense on Amazon, the biggest platform in the world by a lot, then I just think it's just a shift in the world, So again, and something I've learned enough is like, and granted, we have that snowball that's been building for years now, both of us, but I'd rather just continue to put my efforts into this, and, do the best that I can, whether it mean work a little bit harder, source a little bit better, whatever the case may be. I'm just, like if my whole thing was, I just want to, if I said I'm going to do reselling online for the next 20 years, then at some point it would make sense to get on Walmart regardless of Amazon fees, just because of the diversification, and it kind of makes sense. But like for me, I kind of see it as a sprint, whether I have another 5 years, 10 years, I have no idea, but I don't think it's going to last forever. And I'm at a point that when that day comes, as I mentioned, like I'll be okay with that, but for now, I think the best horse is Amazon by a mile,
Yep. And what you said there, like, who knows when Amazon's going down, but do you really see Amazon not being a player in, online purchasing anytime soon? Like that's what's nice about this business model is Amazon continues to grow. And if that's the case, then we're going to have opportunity to grow. It doesn't mean we're going to grow, but we have the opportunity because Amazon's still such a dominant platform, and they are going to make improvements to maintain at the top. Like, unless, change of hands and management really messes with the model and something happens, I just don't see them, losing the market share anytime soon, unless Walmart really steps it up. But I think Walmart's third-party marketplace is also still too new for like it to be as mainstream as Amazon. Like, there are Amazon sellers, like we said, back in like 2012. So
yeah,
the Walmart third-party platform just hasn't been around enough for, I think, it to pick up enough steam to be a big player. Again, in a couple of years, maybe it's worth reevaluating, or sooner than that. But right now, yeah, our best bet is just to keep doubling down on Amazon and just roll with the punches, which are the fees.
Yep.
Stephanie, we can talk a little bit about tactical arbitrage, why we didn't like, tactical. Yeah, you can go first or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't give it enough. I did it very, very early on in my journey when I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. Played around with it, and now knowing what I know, of course, it wouldn't have been super valuable to me because I didn't even know what I was doing, right? So I know this. I know what I'm doing with the essentials, and we've talked about this, but like Inventory Lab, Keepa, Repricer, like very, very lean. I'm not saying tactical arbitrage, if used properly. Any tactical arbitrage has a good enough reputation for enough people that I truly believe if you understand how to use it, if you know how to use something the same way that everybody else does, then you don't have a competitive advantage. But if you're in the top 10% that you know how to use it, then you're going to have a competitive advantage. The question is, are you willing to put in the time and the effort to become that person that does gain a competitive advantage? And frankly, that could be said for any tool, any software, any of them that are worth their weight in gold, or worth their weight whatsoever. They'll at least, make you a couple bucks, but it's going to be up to you, not the software, in my opinion, is what it boils down to.
That's perfectly said. Anybody listening, yeah, you can use any software and you get good enough at it, it's going to be more valuable to you than maybe others. So, in general, I think TA has its pros, but it also has its cons. There is a lot of variability to the software, depending on how many websites you can run searches for, the different discounts. Like, it definitely optimizes certain parts of sourcing, but I don't think it's the end all be all. Like, you cannot just use tactical arbitrage and expect to build a multi 5-figure a month revenue based on that, because there's just going to be too many products where other sellers are running those same exact searches, or you're just not finding the products that are quite, like, you can set, I've used it in the past, right? I used it for probably a year, and I ran searches daily. Like, I was searching every single day with searches, and I was watching videos on how to improve the searches and be more specific. And, you just get to a point where, you're looking at these products and the searches just aren't giving you good enough products. Or if they do, you notice some tanking on some of those products, and probably because, you just can't be, how do I put it? There's like no way to be like so specific that just hardly anybody's searching, that specific search. Like, you're going to detail certain things, and you're going to add discounts, and you're going to add this. Like, you can only get so specific to a point where you're still going to have competition, basically probably searching that same search, because there's just too many users on the platform to not have that. So you will find some competition on those types of products. Personally, I think, if you do use tactical arbitrage, you're going to have a good time. Like, use it to like understand new brands and find. It's almost like a leads list. It's not completely useless if you know how to utilize it.
Right.
And if you're going to find products using tactical arbitrage, maybe you don't find them profitably, but just understand, like, oh, they're finding a bunch of this brand, even though they're not profitable. I just need to understand now, in a week, or when St. Patrick's Day comes around, this website, usually runs 25-30% off on that brand. That's probably the perfect time to search. And now you have all these leads, or at least the brand, that you understand, that's on Amazon. It has decent ranks, right? It sells well. You just need to wait for that time, the opportunity to find it profitably. So that's how if you want to use TA, I don't think it hurts to use it. I know some people that are using it all the time and it's useful to them. You just have to know, I guess, yeah, how to find the competitive edge and use it as like a springboard to find leads. And maybe you found some good storefronts off of those leads. Like then you utilize that and try to use it as a piggyback.
Yeah.
Last couple questions here. I'm not even sure if there's software available for Walmart like Keepa and SellerAmp. I don't think there is. Not that I know of, or not that I've heard other sellers use.
I would have, and I don't know this. I don't think there is, but I would also imagine that if you're an experienced Amazon seller, you can just look at Keepa for Amazon and kind of say, this is a good seller on Amazon. I am, in my head at least, I'm thinking, okay, well then this will probably have some credibility for Walmart as well, But yeah, that's definitely a estimated, like, guesstimates at the best,
Yep. And there's, there are metrics, like you can look at review counts, you can look at how many sellers are on the listing. Like it's not going to look at its history, but snapshots, you're going to see plenty of that. And a lot of that knowledge applies from your Amazon sourcing knowledge as well. So, not as many tools, but you can still use the tools. Seth says, as someone who has used tactical arbitrage heavily, it can become a crutch. And I would advise storefront stalking and keep a knowledge over TA. Yep. I think that's well said. Yeah, you can definitely like I was in that phase for a while when I used it. It was, I would use tactical arbitrage every single day, and that's all I would like. I would spend so much time doing that. I didn't even practice storefront stalking. I didn't even, manually source websites because I'm like, I just got to get through these searches. I did 4 searches. I have to get through all these products. So, I just kind of got stuck on it and, learned plenty, but I just wasn't making the progress I should have. And probably because, again, there's just only so much you can do with the tool. But if you use it the right way, you can definitely, launch yourself into new brands, new products, new categories that you may not have seen before. So it's definitely a good tool. Let's see, Eddie, last couple questions here, then we'll wrap up. March's placement fees will hit your account on April 15th. On that same day, Amazon will be lowering FBA fees by 20 cents to 60 cents per unit, according to a statement they put out. Well, I didn't know that. So that's pretty nice. That might offset, some of the fees there. And again, maybe, the fact that they are lowering the FBA fees, actually, maybe I do remember reading that now. And to me, that what that says, and maybe you have a different opinion on this, Jonathan, but to me, that's kind of like, we don't really want to like make it super inconvenient for the sellers right now. We just want to optimize our inventory so the customer gets their product faster. Like we mentioned before, I mean, Amazon's all about the customer. They want to guarantee 2-day shipping to any person in the US, no matter where they're at, no matter what they're ordering, no matter what time of day. Like they're guaranteeing 1-day shipping on a lot of items. And I appreciate that, because when I'm ordering, poly bags or shipping supplies, it's like, oh man, like I got to get a shipment done this week. I got to wait for poly bags. I forgot to order them. Well, they'll be here tomorrow. So I don't really have to wait.
If not today at like
Exactly. Yeah. You can sometimes do it overnight where I had some guy deliver by 7 a.m. He was knocking on my door, dropping off a package. I'm like, crazy. That's awesome. So that's probably their main intent on this. And yeah, the sellers might get affected some, but it's part of it. That think about what the main focus is, and if they're reducing the fees, FBA fees, then there's some benefit to.
I don't know that I saw that. I'm not saying it. I haven't seen it. It doesn't mean that it's not accurate, because that's awfully specific to mention that. I mean, if that's the case, that's substantial. If I'm just doing round numbers, if I do 2,000 units a month, 20, even at the low end, 20 cents per unit. What's that?
$400.
400, right? Yeah. So,
Yep. And again, maybe those 2,000 units, you are paying 4,400 in your placement fees. But maybe, like we mentioned, like we're kind of skipping the FC transfer step here in certain ways, not always, right? There still might be some of that, and we got to give it time to see how this plays out. But if we're basically breaking even on the reduction of fee versus the placement fee, but our inventory is getting checked in maybe like a couple days faster on average, I'll take that. If there's a little bit of give and take on this, but inventory is checking in quicker, that could really change certain buys that you make too, based on, you know, site sales. If you think something's going to be saturated, but you can get your stuff checked in quicker. I mean, there's a little bit of strategy involved here now. So that's, you know, yeah, I guess we'll see. And we can talk about this. I mean, even like next month, right? If we're still thinking about this and people are talking about it, like, it doesn't hurt to revisit and see, you know, now that we've sent a couple shipments, what have we seen? You know, what are our thoughts on it? How have we adapted? Stuff like that. But
yeah, I think in summary, it's like, as we've both been on the same page with this, ultimately, what it really boils down to, nothing. like for me, literally nothing will change.
Yeah,
you know,
same.
So you know, ultimately, if the profit, if you remained the same seller, the profit would go down in theory. But maybe not, even if these fees that we just talked about from Eddie, right? But if you're sourcing regularly, you are going to get better. Okay. And your buys can be better and your skill set will be better. And, you know, we'll figure this out. Amazon will figure it out. So I would say that if this should not be a make or break for anybody. I'm not saying it's necessarily advantageous, but I don't think that there's enough reason to concern. And from my life experience too, bad news gets more attention. You know what I mean? Like, again, as I said earlier, if you're not going to quit, there's really no point of putting too much worry into this. I'm not saying not to be strategic with your settings and stuff, but like concern of it, I wouldn't advise that.
Stephanie says it's all about increasing delivery speed to stay ahead of competition. Target just announced a program to compete with Prime. Yep. I think because Amazon does it so well that, you know, it's other companies are showing interest and they want to compete. Like, they want to, you know, if Target's doing like delivery or their pickup system is really well, like these companies want to compete with Amazon, and competition's, you know, not all bad.
I think it's great. Sorry. I think competition is great for all of us as sellers.
Yep, exactly. So some statement went out in Seller Central. We can probably review it, you know, at some point. But that fee, I guess I didn't read up on that, or maybe I did and I forgot, but it's, you know, that's good. Then it's not all like negative. And like you said, bad news gets attention. And I think a lot of people aren't realizing that fee reduction, like that's kind of coincides with this, you know, fee increase. So we might find out in, you know, 6 months, really, like maybe we're down like 1 or 2% on what we would have been before all these changes happened, but we're still just selling like we would. So yep. All in all, I think the biggest discussion everyone should take away from this is we don't care. we don't. Our minds aren't changing. Our criteria is probably not changing a whole lot. You know, maybe we'll get a little bit stricter on certain items we were a little loose with before, but all in all, Amazon's the same platform. We're going to get our products shipped out. We're still buying good inventory, and that's the goal. So
that's it.
All right. Well, great chat today. I think we were really niche down on one topic, which is cool. And we got a lot of good questions. So we appreciate everybody for joining us. If you got any topics for next week or any questions on this topic, we'd be happy to answer on the comment section here, or, you know, Instagram DMs are always open. So let us know. But thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week. Go follow both our channels on YouTube. Duke Does Amazon, AC Flip 17. Post a lot of good Amazon content. But yeah, we'll see everybody next week.
See you guys.